Good afternoon, everyone. I hope and trust you are well. Welcome to another session on web development. It is my pleasure to have you here once again. So I hope you had a great weekend, and I hope you were able to go through last week's assignments and you submitted your assignments on time. That is my hope and prayer. Otherwise, let us dive straight into this week's topic. So for this particular week, we'll be looking at advanced HTML concepts. And specifically, we want to have a look at lists, images, tables, and then finish up the lesson with having a look at forms. Okay, so these four items I have listed, the four items I have listed, that is lists, images, tables, and finally forms. These are some of the basic HTML elements that you might come across when you are defining elements to structure and display any type of content within your web pages. So these elements are very essential, and we're going to go in depth and see what they are, how we can embed them on our web pages, and also do that practically. Do that practically, see how we can actually do that. So we are in week 2. So from your directory, please make sure you have at least a week 2 folder. It's good to arrange your work. It's good to arrange your work. So make sure you have a week 2 folder. Make sure you have a week 2 folder, and then open that folder in your Visual Studio Code editor. Open that folder in your Visual Studio Code editor, and from there we can start creating these different elements. So you can create a new file. Just give it the name index.html. You should know how to create a new file by now. So you can either use this icon on VS Code, this icon, or you can use the file context menu to create a new file. Give it the name index.html. So we'll be doing this practically. And I will be asking questions as we go on, just to see if you actually got what we went through last week. So what is the first line of code that we write on a new web page? What is the first line of code that we write on a new web page? Just on the chat, you can quickly answer on the chat. On the chat box. Yeah, and what is that? What is that? What is that? What is it exactly? I need the actual definition of that. What is it? What is it? What is it? Document declaration. Very good. Peter, Juanita, Nicole. Very, very good. So the first line of code is the document declaration. And what does it do? Tell the browser we are using which version of HTML. Very good, Lucille. Very, very good. Lucille, Evelyn, William, very, very good. What is the next element? What is the next element? What is the next element that we are going to write? Yes, the HTML element or the root element. Very good. So the root element wraps around every other element within the web page, within the HTML document. Very nice. And then we have two sections. What is the first section? And then we have, next we have two sections. What is the first section after the root element? We have the head. We have the head and the other section. What is the head? And then we have the body. Very, very, very nice. So we say the head, this is where you will find information about your web page. So we can just do a title here and say HTML lists, images, and forms. Oh, we have tables also. Tables and forms. So that will be our title for today. And finally, on the body, this is where we will define all our displayable content. If you want your content to be displayed on the web page, it must be within the body section. It must be within the body section. So we will begin with lists. We will begin with lists. So anytime you have a group of related items and you need to put them in a list, then you can do so using HTML lists. You can do so using HTML lists. So how do you do that in HTML? So we are going to look at three types of lists. We are going to look at three types of lists. One, we have the ordered list. Two, we have unordered lists. And three, we have definition lists. So we can start with the first one. So we'll do a heading. We will do a heading. I want a level 2 heading. Which tag am I going to use? On the chat box, quickly, H2, H2. Thank you. Emmanuel, Priscilla, Joyce, Duncan, Mark, Sandra, Job. Very good. So I'll do a H2 heading here, and we are beginning with ordered lists. Ordered list. So just as the name suggests, ordered lists are actually ordered. They come in a sequence. They display items in a specific sequence. And that is what ordered actually means. So these ones are usually numbered by default. They are usually numbered by default. So we can, and how do we define them? To define an ordered list, we use the tag OL. To define an ordered list, we use the tag OL. That one defines an ordered list. And this is the tag that will hold the list items. And for every list item, we define that with the tag LI. For every list item, we define that with the tag LI. So we can do a list here. Let us do a list of, we can do a list of 3 countries represented here. Let us see, what majority do we have? So you can type in the chat box from which country you're coming from. And then I'll pick the top 3. So I have Kenya, South Africa, South Africa. Hey, I have Spain, South Africa, South Sudan. So majority I have Kenya, South Africa. Number 2, I can't see any other. South Africa, Kenya, South Africa, Somalia, Vietnam. Vietnam. Is there really someone from Vietnam? Okay. Kenya. I think Nigeria is appearing third. I think Nigeria is appearing third. Yeah, so we can do those 3 countries, based on your submissions from the majority. So we have 3 countries. We have Kenya. Remember, we said in between the tags is where your content actually goes. So that is the opening tag and then the closing tag. So for every list item, use the LI tag. We have number 2 was South Africa. And finally, Number 3, we have Nigeria. Okay. Good. So those are our top three countries from the chat box. Okay, question. How do we display this on a browser? Give me the ways we mentioned last week. How do we display this on a browser? Just very quickly. F5, very good, Janet. F5, use the go live option, very good. Use the live server, run and debug also. Also, you can navigate to the file explorer, very nice. So just quickly launch that on your browser. Myself, I will use the live server option. Quickly launch that on your browser and you will see your related items displayed in a specific sequence, and our sequence is numbered. So I hope you can see that on your side. If you have been able to do so, just give me a thumbs up very quick. If you have been able to successfully launch your ordered list, just give me a thumbs up very quick on the chat box. Very nice. Congratulations, Janet, Julia, Sarah. Very nice. Congratulations, Eric, Alfred, Boniface, Brian, Millicent, Ian, Wayne, Loretta, Shadrach, William, Israel, Abigail. Congratulations. Very good. So that is an ordered list. As you can see, it is actually ordered in a specific sequence. In a very specific sequence. So in the event that you want to change the number type, then let us go back to our code editors. And on the opening tag for the ordered list, we are going to add an attribute called type. We're going to add an attribute called type, and I am going to use Roman literals. I'm going to use Roman literals. So how did we define an attribute last week? How did we define an attribute last week? Anyone? What is an attribute when it comes to HTML elements? What is an attribute? No one can remember. What is an attribute? Yes, very good, Anthony Gishuki. It gives more information about an element. Very nice. Very good. So that is what an attribute is. You simply use it to define or specify more information about HTML elements. So for this particular attribute, the type attribute, when it comes to the ordered list, then you can simply define, I want my type to be this kind. So you can do normal numbers by default. So that one you do not need to define this type. Or you can do alphabets, the letters of the alphabet, either small letters or capital letters, or you can do Roman literals, either small or capital. So you can save this file and go back to the browser. And as you can see, our numbering sequence has changed from numerical values to capital Roman literals. Yeah, okay. You can also start from a specific point. In the numbering sequence. So you simply add the start attribute to do so. So let us say I want to start from number 10 or 100. I can do so by simply specifying on the start attribute on the opening tag for the ordered list. I just add the start attribute, save my file, and go back to the browser. And there I have my The Roman literal for 100 is C, if I'm not wrong. That is 101, and this is 102. So you can use those two attributes to modify the ordered list. You can use those two attributes to modify the ordered list. One is the type. So this one changes the numbering sequence. It changes the numbering sequence either to numerical, to alphabetical, or to Roman literals. We can try alphabetical. Of course, alphabet doesn't start at, does not reach 100. So maybe I can start at 5. Let me do the alphabet. Then go back to the browser. And as you can see, the 5th letter of the alphabet is E, if I'm not wrong. And then you continue from there. Continues from there to F and then G. Very nice. So if you've been able to do that, congratulations. Now you can display lists that are ordered on your web page. Yeah, as simple as that with those few lines of code. So that is the first list for grouping related items to help you organize content by grouping related items. Moving on. Moving on, we have, let us do our second type of list. We have unordered lists. Unordered list. Sorry. Yeah, an ordered list. So with an ordered list, this one does not use any type of sequence. Rather, it displays the items using bullet points. I'm sure you are all aware what the bullet points is. If you have gone through any type of word processing, then you are familiar with numbers and bullets. Okay, so this one simply uses bullet points to highlight or to display those items in a list. And how do you define that? You define that using the UL tag. This one is used to denote an ordered list. And once again, for every list item, they are displayed using the LI tag or the list tag. So we can list the other countries that were given here. Let me just go back to your charts. Apart from the top 3, which one did I get? So I have Ghana. I also have Spain. Wow. I have Ghana, Spain, and South Sudan. Okay. So I can list those ones. So Ghana. Next, I have Spain. And finally, South Sudan. Finally, I have South Sudan. So this is our second type of list, an ordered list. And we say these ones are displayed using bullet points. So we can go back to our browser and have a look at what we have for the unordered list. Can look at what you have for the unordered list. So I hope you have been able to display that unordered list. And just like the ordered list, you can also add some attributes to this. And this one is you can specifically change the type. You can specifically change the type. So this one will just change the type of bullet points that you have. So you can do circle, can do circle and see that. Can do circle, can do circle and see what we have. As you can see, our bullet points have changed. You can also do square. I think square is another option. Can do square and so on and so forth. So on and so forth. So that is how you can display items that are not in any particular sequence, but you can actually group them together using the unordered list type. And in this case, the type attribute simply specifies the bullet style that you can use. The type attribute in this example simply specifies the bullet type that you can use. And finally, our last type of list we are going to look at is the definition lists. So definition lists have a very specific use when it comes to your web pages or to HTML. These ones are used to define terms. You use them to define terms and their descriptions. So if you have abbreviations and you want to define them in a HTML web page, then you can do so. It is an option. You can do so using definition lists. That is what they were created for. So to define a definition list, we use the DL. We use the DL tag. To define a definition list, we use the DL tag. To do so, use the DL tag to do so. So this one wraps the entire definition list. It wraps the entire definition list. And for definition of the terms, we use DT. We use DT to define the terms. So DL is for definition list, DT is for definition term, and then for the description, we use DD, definition description. So for example, you can define what? We can define HTML. You can define HTML and its description. Hey, give me the description for HTML. I was almost giving out an answer. How did we define HTML in full last week? Hypertext markup language. Thank you, Lucille. Very, very nice. So hypertext markup language. Very nice. Hypertext markup language. Very, very good. So that is how you would define a definition list. DL for the definition list, for the entire definition list. That one wraps around everything. And then we have DT for the definition term. And then we have DD for the definition description. So maybe you can save that, go back to the browser and see how that appears. As you can see, there's a distinction between the definition and its description. Okay, there's that distinction between the definition term and the definition description. So that is how you can use definition lists. Please note for this particular one, you cannot use the type attribute here, unfortunately, in order to change its appearance. No, we cannot do that here, but once we get to styling, then you can see how you can format this to your preference in order to make it look much more suitable. Okay, so this one does not take any does not take any attributes to alter its appearance. Okay, the definition list. So have you been able to list items using the 3 types of lists? If you have been able to do so successfully, please give me a thumbs up on the chat box before we proceed. Very, very nice. Very nice. Congratulations. Congratulations. You should be proud of yourself. You're getting somewhere. Good, 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 good. Yeah. Very nice. Very nice. Very, very nice. So that is how you would you would group related items using lists in HTML. Moving on to a very, very important element when it comes to your web pages. So when it comes to your web pages, you cannot underscore the importance of an image in a web page. So as it is said, a picture is worth 1,000 words. A picture is worth 1,000 words. So a picture will really go a long way in improving the outlook and display of your web pages. And how do you actually define and embed pictures within your web pages? I can see some people here not focusing on the lesson. How have we defined DT and DD? Anyone? I've just given a definition for DT and DD. What is DT? Can we please answer Tobiloba? DT is definition term. Very nice. Very good to see you are attentive. And what about DD? DD, definition description. Thank you, Ian. Very, very good. I think Toby is now, we are now at par. So we are going into images. And before we go into images, I want you to locate an image on your local machine. We'll start with internal images. So I'll just do another heading here for images. So we are going to start with, let me do a sub-heading for internal. Let me do internal images. So I want you to locate an image on your local machine. Any image on your local machine. Please make it available on your working directory, the directory we are working out of. Please make that image available on your local directory. Let me just locate an image. Pictures. I don't have an image. Should have an image. Let's locate an image, and make sure it is available on your working directory. That is where we are working out of. Make sure it is available there. So I've just located mine. I've availed it to my directory. Here's my image. That is my image, the one I'll be working with. So make sure your image is on your working directory. Very important, please. Make sure your image is on your working directory. So we are going to showcase how you can embed an image that is internal. By internal, I mean an image that is in your working directory, okay? So how do we embed an image in HTML? We embed an image in HTML using the image tag denoted by img. We use the image tag denoted by img. Now this img is a special type of tag that we defined last week. How did we define this tag? Who can remind us? How did we define this type of tag? How did we define this type of tag? Oh, Meta is wrong. Very good, Sylvia and Margaret. This is a self-closing tag or a void element. They do not have a closing tag. Very, very nice. Very, very nice. A self-closing tag. So we embed an image in our web pages using the img tag, and it takes up a very important attribute called the source attribute. And this source attribute simply defines or specifies the location of the image that you want to embed on your web page. Okay, since our image is within our directory, you simply specify the name of the image. Make sure the extension of the image is very, very correct. If it is PNG, make sure you are using PNG. If it is JPEG, make sure you are using JPEG. Or if it is a GIF, make sure the extension is correct. So that is one of the most important attributes when it comes to embedding an image. Another important one is the alt attribute. And this one stands for alternate or alternative text. And this text is important in the event that your image is not displayed for whatever reason. Then this image will stand, this piece of text will stand in the place of that image. I'm sure you've visited websites where the image does not load, but you see a piece of text where the image was supposed to appear. You see a piece of text there. That is what we are referring to as the alternative text. And since this one, you simply use it to give a small description of the image. And this one is also used for accessibility purposes. And also search engines will use it in the event that they index your page. So we can say for mine, this is, can say image of, this is a jellyfish, image of a jellyfish, image of a jellyfish. So I can save my file and go back to my browser. My image is very, very large. Let me zoom in. This is my image. I have zoomed in so much so that you can see the image. But that is my image embedded on my web page. This is my image embedded on my web page. So who has been able to display an image on their web page by a show of thumbs up on the chat? Very nice. Duncan, William, Sandra, Eric, Moses, Tibogo, Redemptor, Leah. Very, very nice. Congratulations. Congratulations. Very good. Very good. Very, 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 very good. So we've said to display an image or to embed an image on your web page, you use the img tag. which is a void element. So you do not need a closing tag for that one. And then you define your source attribute. Define your source attribute. Define your source attribute. And the source attribute simply gives the location of your image. It gives the location of your image. Where does your image reside? So that is the purpose of the source attribute. It simply defines the location of that image so that it can be displayed on your web page. And finally, we have the alt attribute, and this one is just alternative text that you provide to be displayed in the event that your image does not load. So I'll just give an example of that. Let me say, maybe I misspelled the word jellyfish, for example. Let us see what will be displayed here. So let me reset this page. So if you can see, I have a small icon for a missing image, but I have my piece of text image of a jellyfish. So that is the purpose of that alternative text. So that in the event that your image is not displayed, whether it is missing or there is a network issue, or you misspelled the name, and so on and so forth, then that alternative text will stand in place of your image. Okay, that is the purpose of that. So we've noted that our image, my image specifically, is very, very huge. I'm going to introduce two new attributes to help me modify the size of that image, and that is the height, and the width, height and width attributes. So these ones are used to resize an image. They are used to resize the image. So you can provide numerical values to this so that you can work with a smaller image that fits your web page. So for example, I can go with a height of 500 and a width of maybe 350, okay? And these heights are in a unit of measurement that we refer to as pixels, P-I-X-E-L, P-I-X-E-L, pixels. We refer to them as pixels, a unit of measurement that we use in web development. So I can save that file. And then go back to my browser. And there my page, my image is now resized. My image is now resized. Let me just set it to 100%. My image is now resized. I can view the whole image without any difficulty. Yeah? I can view the whole image without any difficulty. So you use those two attributes, the width and the height, to resize an image. Make sure that it fits on your web page. If the image is too big, or even if the image is too small, you can use those two attributes to make the image larger. But remember, if the image is very small, then if you resize it to a much bigger size, it might lose its quality. Yeah. So this image was a very large image, high quality image. Resizing it downwards will not in any way compromise its quality. But if it was a smaller image of a lower quality, making it bigger may compromise its quality. Yeah. Okay. So use those two attributes in the event that you want to resize an image. Use those two if you want to resize an image. So in the event that your image is not displaying, I began by saying that make the image available in the same directory or in the same location where your HTML file is. Okay? make it available in that directory. Make it available in that directory. So this location needs to be very, very accurate. It needs to be accurate in order for that image to be displayed. Okay, so we can go to the next one, can do H3 again, and we can do external images, external images. So we have done an image that resides in our local machine. What if you want an image that is external, resides on the internet or another website? You simply change the source. You simply change the source to specify where that image actually is. So let me just add these attributes, height and width. Add those attributes. And I want you to visit this website. It's a very good website for free images. You'll not encounter any copyright or legal issues if you use images from this site. It is called Pexels. It's called pexels.com. It's a slight play on the word pixel, pexels.com. So you can access that one, pexels.com, and just locate an image, the one that will catch your eye. Any image that will catch your eye. So let me see. Myself, I really like elephants, so I'm going to use this one. So what I want you to do, if you've located an image, do not download it. We want to showcase how you can display an external image. So right click on the image and copy the image address. Right click on the image and copy the image address. And you are going to paste it where? On the source attribute. You're going to paste it on the source attribute. And then we are going to add this. So I have the alt here. I'll do an image of an elephant. Let's say at sunset. And for the height, I can do 600 by 450. Save that and then go back to my browser. Go back to my browser on my web page. Oh, this one is a bit skewed. Maybe 500. Let's see that. Where's the 500 by 500 square? Much better. Anyway, yeah, so that is how you can display an external image. You simply specify the source as the address of that external image. Simply specify the source as the address of that image. And the browser engine will be able to embed that image on your web page. So the downside of external images is that they may change location, or they might be missing, or you might find it was deleted. So they have a downside. And also it depends on your internet connectivity. So if you do not have any internet connection, then an external image may not be displayed. An external image may not be displayed. So those are the two ways in which you can embed images on your web page, whether internal or external. So who has been able to display both? Who has been able to display both? Very good, very, very, very good. Very, very, very good. Nice, 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 nice. that is very commendable. Very, very commendable. Yeah, so if someone needs this code, you can simply let me open the Q&A section. You can simply just drop a question on the Q&A. I'll paste it there. You can just drop a question on the Q. Yes, you can. If you want to shorten the URL using online tools, yes. Yes, you can. Yes, you can do so. Yeah, there are tools online. There are tools online for shortening URLs, but that one is not in the scope of this class. This is very, very long. So I'll just do the image. Okay. Yeah, so whether the image is internal or external, the only thing you need to change is the source. So for an internal image, you simply reference the image location from your local machine. If it is external, make sure you get the full image address. Make sure you get the full image address so that that image may be displayed. Okay. So that that image may be displayed. If your image is not being displayed, then trust you me, your source attribute is the issue. The source attribute is the issue. Yeah, so that is how you embed an image. This is how you embed an image. Yeah, there's a repo that we used in the morning, but I will share that at the end of the session because we are still continuing. I cannot paste each and every line of code here because of the length. Maybe if you just need the images, find it on the Q&A section. I've posted for someone. I have posted for someone. For the entire code, I think I will avail that at the end of the session. I will avail that at the end of the session from a repo. Okay, we can move on. We can move on. We can move on. We can move on to tables. We can move on to tables. Move on to tables. So we are now in the level 2 heading. See HTML tables. So tables used to display structured data in rows and columns. Tables are used to display structured data in rows and columns. So if you have a tabulated data and you want to display them on a web page, how do you achieve that? So we achieve this using the table tag. We achieve this using the table tag. This is how you embed a table on your web page. And we'll start by defining the default or the basic table structure. The default or the basic table structure. So you have your table. This is the one that wraps around everything that will be displayed on the table. And we have we have three distinct sections when it comes to a table. We have the table head. For the top part of the table, we have a table body. We have a table body, and we have a table footer. And then we have a table footer. So these are the three main sections of a table. The default ones are these two. This one is usually optional for reasons I will explain when we come to the table footer. So for the table head, this is the top portion of your table where your table headers appear. And by table headers, I mean the column headers or the column titles. If you've come across any table, you see the columns usually have a title, maybe for the name or an address, email addresses, and so on and so forth. That entire row, we refer to that as the table header. Where your column titles will appear. Next, we have the table body. Table body now is the actual content, the actual data of the table, the actual structured data of the table. This is where that one will appear. And finally, we have the table footer. As I mentioned, this one is optional. The table footer is similar to the table head. The only difference is the position and the name, but they are similar in nature. Whereas the table header gives the table header columns at the top, the table footer will give the table column titles at the bottom of your table, okay? So within the table head, a line item on a table, we refer to that as a row, and it spans from left to the right of the entire width of the table. We refer to that as a row. And how do you define a row while defining a table? We use the TR tag. TR for table row. And inside the table row, we have the actual data of the table head. Inside the table row for this particular section, we have the actual data for the table head. And this one is denoted by TH. This one is denoted by TH for the table header titles. So each and every one will be defined here. So for example, we can have student name. And then we can have their country, age, and then their country. Yeah? So this will serve as our column header titles. These three, they will serve as our column header titles. Okay, so that is it for the table head. For the table body, we've said each line item is represented by a row. So we'll define a table row, and then each item on a table row within the table body is represented by TD, denoting table data. TD denoting table data. So we can just create here a student. Let me just use my name. Other data, we can do age. And finally, we can do country. Yeah? So this will represent one line item. So I can just copy that, introduce a second line item, and a third, and a fourth, and a fifth. I think 5 are more than enough. Let me just change these names and ages very, very quickly, and also the country, Nigeria, Somalia. E, says Libya. So I have 5 entries. I have 5 entries on my table. I have 5 entries on my table within the body section of the table. So we say the footer is typically the same as the header. It is only the location. It is only the location, and they would typically have the same information. So we can just copy what we had at the header and paste it there within the footer section. Within the footer section. So I'll save this. I will save that. And then head over to my browser. Head over to my browser. And if you can see at the bottom of my browser, I have my tabulated data. I have my tabulated data. You have your table header there. You have your table body here. And finally, at the bottom, you have your table footer data. So doesn't look like a table, so let us change that. Let us change that. But mind you, this is a very old way of putting borders in tables. It is a very old way. So you can use the border attribute and set this to 1. You can use the border attribute on the opening tag of the table and set it to 1, and your table will have a border now. Now your table should have a border. Let me just copy this and paste it on, let me copy and paste it on Q&A section. Let's get rid of this. If it is too large, it won't paste. So let's paste it on the Q&A section. Yeah, so I need someone to send a question for the table so that I can paste the code on the Q&A. It will be much easier to copy from there. Okay. So there you have it, the table. I've gotten rid of some of the data because if it is too large, it won't paste. Okay, so there you have it. This is not a class. This is not a class. This is it's a border attribute. Class is an attribute on its own, but we'll do that at a much later time. Not here, not now. Okay. Yeah. I've also seen a question of how do I display an image as the background image of a website? Not now, but we'll definitely do it. So we are just going through the structure. We're simply just going through the structure first. when it comes to layout and formatting the display of these elements, we will begin with that from next week. So please be patient, step by step, step by step. We'll get there eventually. So I've shared the table. You can use that code in your own code editors and get to see how it is being displayed. So you should have something like that. I've only shared one row of data because of the size of pasting the content, but you can add as much as you want. Remember, the table footer is optional, not a must that you include it. That is optional. It is normally used, or it is especially used if you have a large data set. So if you have a very large data set such that someone has to scroll to the very bottom, then a table footer would be ideal so that they actually can relate the table data with the column headers, with the column headers. So how many of us have been successful in displaying a table? Show of thumbs. By show of thumb, very nice, very nice. Congratulations, Lucy, Dan, Mwangi, Constance, Brian, Moses, Jacqueline, Redemptor, Lerato, Kelvin. Congratulations. Very nice. Very, very nice. Very nice. So that is how you would embed a table on your web pages. That is how you would embed a table on your web pages. Very nice. Very, very nice. Very good, very good, very, very good. Very good. Very good. So we are done with the tables. We are done with the tables. So remember to embed a table in your web page, you use the table tag. Use the table tag, and then tables have three main sections. You have the table head, the table body, and the table footer. And for each line item, you must define a table row using TR as the tag. For the table header, each data item is defined using the TH tag. And for the table body, each item is defined using the TD, table data tag. I hope that is very, very clear. So on to our final element of the day, that is forms. HTML forms. HTML forms. So any moment that you have registered on any website or web service, or anytime you have logged in to any web application, be it social media or even the LMS, you have at least interacted with a form. A form is used to collect user input, and this is done through text fields, check boxes, radio buttons, and so on and so forth, as we are going to see. Okay, so that is how we collect user information on a web page using the form element. And how do you embed a form element in HTML? You simply do that using the form tag. Simply do that using the form tag. And this form tag, it takes up a number of attributes, the most important being the action attribute and the method, the method attribute. So I will just give a high level overview of these two because we're not going to use them here. Their use is will come much later at an advanced stage of development. So these two attributes, action is used to specify where is this data going or where is it being transmitted to. So in a registration form, you usually have your fields for name, your email address, your password, and then you have a submit button or a register button. So when you click on that register button, the data that you have is captured and transmitted somewhere for further processing. So that location where it is transmitted, it is usually specified here within the action attribute. So that is where you specify that. You specify the location where your data will be sent to or transmitted to for further processing, the action attribute. The method on a form, the method attribute on a form, this one specifies how that data will be transmitted. How will you send this data from your form to that other location for further processing? How will that data be transmitted? And once we get to that topic, we'll get to see the different methods in which you can use and the advantages and disadvantages of those methods. So just a very high overview of those two attributes, okay? So you have embedded a form. Now you need to collect your user information. You need to collect your user information. And this is done through one, text input fields. Text input fields, checkboxes, radio buttons, text areas, and we are going to see all of that in a few. So to define those, first we begin with a label. Begin with a label. And a label is simply a HTML element that is used to identify the purpose of an input field. Just as the name suggests, a label, just as you know it in English, a label is simply used to identify something. Eh? So for label, you have the label tag, and within the opening and closing label tag, this is where your name, the name of your field will go. So for example, we can start with, we can do full name. We can do full name. And on the opening tag for the label, this one takes one very important attribute, that is the for attribute. And the for attribute simply is used to make a connection between the label and its corresponding input field or its corresponding text field, and so on and so forth. So for example, this would be the a label for, let us say, full name. Full name. So after the label, we can now define our input field using the input tag. This is also another self-closing or void element. It does not have a closing tag. So on the input field, we have several attributes. We have several attributes. So if you want to input one line of text, then we use the text type attribute on the input field. This will allow you to take up one line of text, okay? And another attribute we can have for this is the ID, the name, and another one is the required attribute, the required attribute. So I'm sure we defined an ID. What is an ID? Who can remind us? What is an ID attribute? My apologies for that. Sorry, I lost my internet for a short while, but I'm back. So, where were we? Yeah, we were defining an ID, the ID attribute. Yes, used to specify a unique identifier for a HTML element. Very, very good. So this ID attribute is the one that identifies a HTML element on your web page, so that in the event that you want to reference a specific element, you can simply use its ID attribute. Now, in retrospect, the name attribute, this one identifies this element when this data is submitted, during your transmission, during transmitting your data. This name is the one that will identify this piece of data, okay? So please get the differences between the name and the ID attribute. And finally, we have the required attribute. You will come across this one. So the required attribute makes it compulsory for a user to input a value on a specific element, or to make sure a specific element has a value attached to it. So if you want to make it compulsory for a name to be included in your form, or whatever input to be included in your form data, then you use the required attribute to do so. Use the required attribute to do so. So there we have our first input field. You can simply save that. And go back to my browser. There I have my full name and the input text field. There I have my full name and the input text field. So another common one, as someone is mentioning on the chat, is the placeholder. A placeholder is the attribute that is used to give an example of what is required on a particular field, especially the text field, okay? So if you want to give your user an example of the data that they are required to fill in, then you can use the placeholder to do so. So for example, I can do John Doe, or I can simply say your full name. Yeah, I can simply say your full name. And when you go back to your browser, when you go back to your browser, as you can see, our text field has now a placeholder. This is simply used to guide your user. What am I supposed to do in this, on this text field? So you simply guide them on what they are supposed to do or what they are supposed to input. Of course, this is only a placeholder, just as the name suggests. Once you type in, it will simply disappear, okay? Okay, so we have a text field. Next we can do, I'll simply introduce a line break, to be precise. This is how you define a line break using the BR tag. This is another self-closing or void element. That is one line break. If I want another, I can simply paste that. So we've done an input text field. We can do, what can we do? We can do a password field. We can do a password field. Or let us do an email first. We can do an email. So label, this will be for email. This will be for email. And then you have your input. And for the type, you can simply select email. You can simply select email. You can do a placeholder for this one and say John Doe at example.com. You can do an email. Save that, go back to the browser. Let us see what we have. Yeah, we have an email with a placeholder for the format of the email address. I'll do another line break to be precise. Can do for password. I can do for password. Just creating a simple registration form. Can do one for password. Oh, I forgot the ID and the name. So this is email. Good. So input will be, the type will be password. We have a specific type for the password, and you'll see why. ID password, name password. You'll see why we have a specific type for the password. We have a specific type for the password because this one is masked. You cannot actually see the item being typed. That one is masked. Specifically the password type. So can somebody do for me one for address on the chat box? Do for me one for the address on the chat box. Address on the chat box. Address on the chat box. Address. Somebody do for me one for address on the chat box. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul Khan. So I'll just copy your solution and paste it here. Thank you very much. Very good, very good. but you're missing an equal sign on the for attribute, but still very good job. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you very much. So far we've done text input. Let us introduce another input type. We can introduce radio buttons. We can introduce radio buttons, and we will use that for gender. Use that for gender. So once again, input, and then type. For type, you use radio. This one will do name, gender. And for this one, for the radio buttons, you must include a value attribute. A value attribute. Because this one is not being inputted, it is only being selected, you need to attach a value to it. So we have female. Copy that. And male. We have female and male. Okay, that is for the gender. And let's repeat the difference between ID and name attributes. So for the ID, we say the ID uniquely identifies an element on the web page. Okay, that is the purpose of the ID attribute. Whereas the name attribute, that one is used to identify the actual data when it is being transmitted. Used to identify the actual data of an element when it is being transmitted. I hope that it is clear. So that is the difference. Okay, thank you. So there we have our radio buttons. We have our radio buttons. So for radio buttons, if you have a list of items and you need one of those items selected, then you can use radio buttons. You can use radio buttons in order to gather data on a list of items. If you just need one of them selected, then you can use a radio button. If you need several selected, then you can introduce the use of checkboxes. So I'll do a checkbox. Let's just do hobbies. Can do a checkbox for hobby. And then list them using checkboxes. So this will be hobby, then value. Don't forget the value. Since these ones are only being selected, you need to do a value. So travel can be one. Travel can be one. Can do another one for music. Hobby, sorry. Music. Can do another for reading. Or am I forgetting? It's the value that is supposed to change. For streaming. So that is your list of checkboxes. So let me go back to the browser. Yeah. So your radio buttons are symbolized by a round selection input. And as you can see, you can only select either. You cannot select more than one. You cannot select more than one. And for the checkboxes, you can select more than one. You can select more than one. Okay, so those are the differences between radio buttons and your checkboxes. So we've done text, we've done radio button, we've done checkbox. Next, we can do a drop down. We can do a drop down select box. Can do a drop down select box. So once again, you need a label. I can do one for country. Do one for country. And for this one, we use the select tag. We use the select tag. We use the select tag. So I can give this a name and an ID. And for each item that will appear on the drop down, we use the option tag. We use the option tag to list those items. So here I can say select country. This will be the default one that will be displayed when the form loads. And then I can have my list of countries. I can have my list of countries, option. And this list of countries, each option needs a value. Each option needs a value. So I can do South Africa here. And then between the tags, I also do the same name, South Africa. Do Botswana. Do Ghana. Do Tanzania. Okay, so that is my list of options. That is my list of options for the drop-down box. List of options for the drop-down box. The options to my drop-down box. Now with the drop-down box, there is another attribute that you can add if you need your user to select more than one option. Then you can use the multiple attribute. With this attribute, now they can be able to select more than one from the drop-down. So if you need that, then you can include that attribute. You can include the multiple attributes. No breaks, no breaks. Let me just wind this up and then I can also take a break as I invite your questions. Okay, so let me reload that. So because I've selected the multiple, then somebody can be able to select multiple countries from the drop down. But if I remove that, then they'll only be able to select one. They will only be able to select one. So that is our drop-down box. Which other am I missing? The submit button. The submit button. So there are two ways in which you can put up buttons in a form. One is by use of the button attribute, button tag. You can use the button tag. You can use the button tag. And for this one, we can say it is a submit button. It is a submit button. Between the tags, I can specify the value that will be displayed. And the other way is by using the input type. And here I can say, I can use either button. For the type, I can use either button. For just a normal button, I can use submit for a submit button, or I can use reset for a reset button. The reset button is used to clear form inputs on the form. Let's call it cancel reset. Okay, so I'm done. I'm done with the forms. I'm done with the forms. I'm done with the forms. Let us just see how that one. Oh, I forgot a line break here. Line break there. So that would be an example of a form. That would be an example of a form. From your text inputs to your radio buttons, to your check boxes, to a drop down, a select box, and to your buttons, and to your buttons. That would be the typical structure of a HTML form. Comments are very easy. I'm sure you've come across comments. How is a comment written in HTML? Eh? This is how you write a comment. This is how you write a comment. Yes, thank you, Sylvia. That is how you write a comment. So I can say end of form. Let me copy this and place it here and say start of form. Comments are just pieces of an unreadable text that just provide information about your code. So these ones are usually not processed by the browser. Okay, so that is the format. You start, let me do it on a new page so that you can see it clearly. This is how you write a comment. Comment goes here. Yes, that is how you write a comment in HTML. See, someone is giving you a shortcut. Someone is giving you a shortcut. For comments, you press Control and the /. Yeah, so. So I'm done with forms. I hope you have been able to capture a form and embed a form on your web page. Let me just place this in a repository, the whole of this. Let me just place it in a repository and share in a minute. Oh. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. If you have any questions, ask away. Let me place this in a repository and then share it. Twenty-five. One. Okay, your questions are most welcome. Any questions surrounding today's session? Please let us limit our question to today's session. Any questions surrounding today's session? Please, you are welcome. You are welcome. You are welcome. Yes, we are aware of the issues surrounding the LMS. Yeah, there was an update that was pushed last week. Unfortunately, it is not working as expected, but our technical team is working around the clock to sort each and every issue. And we hope by the end of the day, everything will be resolved. So please kindly bear with us regarding issues surrounding the LMS. That one is, we are well aware of, but receive our most sincere apologies for the inconvenience. Yes, for those who joined late, the recording will be availed at a later time. So you could go through the recording. I cannot summarize 2 hours in the next 5 minutes. So kindly you will access the recording once it is uploaded. Next time, join us on time. I have pasted a link to the repository for this session on the chat box. You can access it from there. Sylvia, go and have a look at pattern, the pattern attribute. If you want to specify your password field to have uppercase, lowercase, and a maximum number of characters, look at the pattern attribute. Call span and row span in the table are used to merge cells. Call span and row span in the table are used to merge cells. So the intersection of a row and a column is what we are referring to as a cell. So if you want to merge 2 or more cells, then you can use the col span and the row span attributes. Col span is used to merge columns. Row span is used to merge rows. Okay. I've shared the repository on chat again and again. Font, be patient. All those who are asking about fonts, how do I format my images? How do I set a background image? Be patient, step by step. Don't get ahead of yourself. So next week we'll be you'll be introduced to CSS, and then you will see how do I actually beautify my website? How do I make it more presentable? So you can be patient for next week, and then you will see how we can achieve that, including font. So thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Stephen. Any other question? Unable to launch browser, could not attach to main target. So Christian, I'm assuming that is if you're launching from VS Code. So if VS Code is not working for you, we gave another alternative. You can simply navigate through your file explorer to where your files are and simply double click on your HTML file. It should launch on your default browser. Extensions for HTML. I think we only installed the live server extension. But if you need help with your HTML code, you can look for the HTML extension. I think it's usually installed by default, but I'm not sure. If it is not, you can install it. It will assist you with code completion. It will assist you with code completion. If live server is not working, there are more than one ways of launching your web page, which I think we have extensively covered. So you can press F5 or use the run and debug menu, or simply open your file explorer, navigate to where you've saved your file, double click on it, and it should open on your default browser. Yeah, so any other question? Table footer, we've said table footer, there's no difference between in regards with the table footer and the table head. They usually just contain the same type of information, only that the table footer is useful if you have a large data set. So if you have like 100 line items or 1,000, so you can place the table footer so that when the user is scrolling to the very bottom, they just have an idea of the different table headings that are at the top. There's no other information that you can place there. It will serve the same purpose as the table header. The only difference is the location. We had our class on Monday last week, not Friday, but yes, I did upload the recordings under week 1 of the web development class. The recordings for the 3 sessions were availed. So immediately the issue on the LMS is sorted, I will upload the recording for the first session. And also you'll give me an hour after this so that this video can render. And then I will also upload the video for the afternoon session. Yeah, for those who want to reach me on email, you can find that is my email address, eddie@powerlandprojectafrica.org. So if you are experiencing any issue on the LMS, please send me an email. Include a screenshot of your error. Very, very important. Please include a screenshot of your error. And also, please use your official email address, the one you registered with on PLP, okay? So that we can also identify your profile on the LMS and sort that issue, okay? Very, very important. Do not forget that. Otherwise, there is a WhatsApp group. There is a WhatsApp group. Let me see if I can get the link and share it here. So that one will be uh, 2025. Get this. Yeah. Yeah. So this group is specifically for web. Please, I cannot assist you in issues regarding other modules. I am not the instructor there. I'm not best placed to assist you in that. So, but any issue regarding the web module, I will comfortably address it. So that is the link to the chat, to the WhatsApp chat group for web. Anything pressing, you can always post it there and I will address it from there. Otherwise, if there are no more questions, I will end the session there. Thank you, Zedek. Zedek is telling his fellow learners, ask questions related to what you've been taught today. We learn other things later. Don't be in a rush. Yes, patience is a virtue. So please be patient. Eh? Don't hurry, don't hurry. Things take time and it is step by step. You need to go step by step in order to learn these things. Do not rush into something. Eh? Yeah, so thank you so much too. Thank you for your amazing company, for the questions, for the answers that you gave. I really appreciate to see you guys are really learning something. It's such a joy to see that. So once the LMS is back up, remember you have your assignment, your quiz, and your surveys. Please attend to them. And then I will be seeing you next week for the next week's session that we will be now introducing CSS and see how now we can liven things up on our websites. How we can add colors, how we can add background images, how we can style our tables and our lists and so on and so forth. So that one is next week. You really do not want to miss that one. We are very interesting and exciting class. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. It was a pleasure and have a very, very good evening.